Hey, good evening, everyone. It's CJ. Hopefully, everyone is having a fantastic evening. It is Friday, October the 7th, and this live stream that I'm doing right now is in part of a global event that's taking place now, overnight, in certain parts of the world, the globe, until tomorrow on Saturday. And what this relates to is Julian Assange. Many of you are very well of the situation occurring with Julian, his incarceration with Unjust. We've discussed this here numerous times, what's happened with Julian. And I've been trying to connect. It's been difficult because there's a few different time zones that we're working through logistically. So I really try to get a couple of guests on here to discuss more in detail in regards to the events that are taking place. But in particular, I did receive an email link to one of the protests. It's called the Human Chain for Julian Assange. And I think why this should resonate with a lot of people is because it relates to speaking the truth in regards to what has happened in regards to numerous aspects of intervention policies, in regards to the lack of transparency that's occurred to the surveillance states that occurred here in the United States. So one of my good friends, virtual good friends, I should say, sent me a link to the Alex Hills sent me a link to the protest and the video. There's a little bit of lag in the video. So full disclosure, there's a little bit of lag. So like literally within the next 24 hours, what's happening between today and tomorrow, a human chain is forming around the incarceration area of Julian Assange. And around the globe, many other people are doing events in their states, in their country, to protest what is happening to Julian Assange. I don't think words does justice into regards to the criminality of what's occurring to Julian. It's truly inhumane. I've often asked myself what things could I do individually to help in this situation, whether it's going on a hunger strike or the most severe. But when you think about what's taken place with Julian and the information that he has put forth into the social stream has led to a massive awakening of people truly understanding of how the military industrial complex, the intelligence offices have corrupted nearly every bit of the information that we receive through social media platforms, whether that be Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, whatever it is. They control the information. They control the data that leads to not only people being led into believe and to support the efforts and the ideologies, what's led forth by those, but also counter to that is if there's any anti-war, any anti-peace, or anti-war, pro-peace movement, they're shut down. They're not allowed to have a voice to counter the efforts put forth by the intelligence agencies and the corruption of most of mainstream media. So therefore we feel that there's nothing happening. We feel the people, there's no longer a anti-war party in the United States. The neoliberals, the neocons have walked hand in hand the past several years to fund intervention policies, to fund these endless wars that are taking place across the globe, whether it's the Middle East, whether it's Europe, most recently with Ukraine. There's no oversight policies that have asked a fundamental question: why are we doing this? And Julian Assange was one of those persons who provided a platform with WikiLeaks provided a platform for people to feel comfortable to upload data, to upload content, to disperse that information so that people can take a look at it for their own eyes, whether it's cables, whether it's video, multitude of different information that WikiLeaks has shared that has exposed the criminality of what's happening within the government agencies. To me as an individual, I've said this numerous times, there will never be a healing process until we understand the truth. The truth of what happened that infamous day with JFK. The truth of what happened and what Julian is exposing with the military-industrial complex. So there's so many people that I should be thanking right now because I'm amazed. I open my Twitter feed and I see so many, not hundreds, but thousands, people who are really trying to be up, really put forth an effort to free Julian as a journalist. There's no crimes that he's ever committed. What disheartens me as an American, as a U.S. citizen, is that this effort to bring Julian Assange to any type of what they're saying trial, there's not going to be a trial. It's not going to exist. They're basically wanting to bring Julian to the United States so that he dies. Okay, that's what it amounts to. And who's leading this effort? And I hate to refer to them anymore going forward as the U.S. government because I'm a U.S. citizen. However, on the federal side of it, they no longer represent you or I or any of the friends that we have in our communities. What our government represents strictly is special interests, corporations, and the military-industrial complex who lines themselves not only in the profits that they receive, but also what the politicians receive as well. And it's so disheartening. And I've never have ever been so clear to really justify any type of ends to the means where we say, how do we disrupt this? How do we break this vehicle? How do we change this pattern of corruption that exists within the federal government of Washington, D.C.? Because an American, I'll tell you this, as an American, the government that's established in Washington, D.C. no longer represents of who I am as an individual. Either they change the course of who they are in Washington, D.C., or I change the course of who I am as a representative person here in the United States. Because I can no longer feel pride of what Washington, D.C. has established of the policies and procedures that they put forth. And I think there's many of you who are listening right now who probably feel the exact same way. And we can no longer be the silent majority. The time for that is over. Like if you have any love, if you have any care for yourself, for your children, for your grandchildren, now is the time to activate. Now is the time to get involved socially, politically, within your own community, and then also look to try to make an impact. I just can't state that enough. I think it's just that imperative. So the video that I'm getting ready to play is from Wellington, and it's one of the surround parliament that's occurring around the globe tomorrow. Here on Saturday, there's going to be one here in the United States, Washington, D.C. The video in itself, you have to remember they were operating on Wi-Fi, so therefore it wasn't the best connection. But I think, again, into helping my friends who are doing everything that they can to free Julian Assange, I have to support that. It's not even a question. So I'm going to bring this video in right now. This is the video. Again, you keep in mind that this is on a Wi-Fi. So the connection, the video is not the best, but I want everyone to listen to this because my friends have been working diligently night and day the past couple of weeks, and they reached out to me yesterday, and I really wanted to cover this live, but because the time difference between where I am in the United States and where they are, I didn't realize the significance of the difference. That's my shortfall, but I will do everything and I can to help promote this. Thank you, Annie. Annie, welcome to the stream. Camaro, welcome to the stream. Thank you guys for being here. So let's play this video. So again, this is a global event that's taking place in real time between now and leading in tomorrow into Washington, D.C., an effort to draw awareness in regards to the efforts that we need to really move forward in freeing Julian Assange. Because keep this in mind, truth will always be an enemy to the state. Truth will always be the enemy to the controllers who leverage the mainstream media and also leverage the tech oligarchs, Google, Facebook, which owns, by the way, Instagram. I think there's one other thing that they own, but needless to say, they're manipulating you. They're manipulating your mind. So here's this video. So let's play this. So I want to thank Alex Hills for sending me this. And this is the protest again. I want to apologize. The video content is a little bit of lag, and it's strictly due to the fact that we're in a public area on a Wi-Fi. And so let's play this. Here we go.
Yeah. Okay, I think we're going live on my YouTube channel. Woo. And I thought we're also going to have road news bringing in to see what we're doing in Wellington, so kicking off the actions around the world. Obviously, as you're here today, you must know that Julian Assange has been tortured now for a decade, really, but it's specifically the last few years while he's been kidnapped from the Ecuadorian embassy and in Belmarsh, which is basically UK's Guantanamo. If we leave this situation, we kind of drop the ball, didn't we, on this one? I mean, it's not really about the men, it's about the case of the precedent that this is setting for journalism, for our children to be able to hold powder account in the future. Yeah. If they allow a journalist to be extradited to the place that is actually threatened, assassinate him, and they have been embarrassed by the war crimes that he accurately published about him, if that is allowed to happen, then really we're allowing the precedent of free press to be squashed altogether forever. And I mean, effectively, we're enslaving our children. Yeah. Now, I hope you know today, I really want to make a big noise for the London Surround Parliament event, because it's the only reason we're here. We're just doing a solidarity action, a human chain, however big we manage, just for a photo, because the London action, they probably will have 5,000 people, but unfortunately today, there was a transport strike across the whole country, nationwide. Every time we have an Assange action, there's something like this. I'm not kidding. I don't want to be the conspiracy theorist, but that is really what happens every time. So anyway, Corbyn was approached and asked to delay it. He couldn't do anything. He wanted to, allegedly. But anyway, the situation being that almost 5,000 people have signed up, and that's what they believe they need. They're going to go from Big Ben across the river, along the South Bank, because there's no footpath along the bridge, along the Parliament on the river. And then they're going to come back on the other bridge, and then they're going all around. And at some point, there's going to be foghorns go off, and then they're asked to join hands and stay there all day. There's going to be lots of videographers. Stella, Julian's wife, is going to walk around and meet the whole chain. I just almost cried when I read that on the way here. I was like, oh my God, how beautiful. So we're really hoping that they manage to do it. Everything is going against them to try and achieve this. And I think it is, the world's first. We actually have someone here, May. Where are you, May? There she is, who organised another Surround Parliament New Zealand event for anti-nuclear, anti-war. So we actually have an experienced veteran activist. Anyway, a lot of people, particularly I have to say in the freedom movement, have assumed Assange is a CIA agent, and then of course we know all the Hillary lefties think that he won the justify because they might have listened to Russiagate. We know that he's been trashed as a rapist. We know all the false allegations.
Where's the Greens in this?
The Greens, well, as you might know, in 2018 we got a petition, an emergency petition, Greg and I, and we managed to get about 2,400 signatures. It was in Bloomberg, RT, Reuters. It was everywhere around the world, kind of taking the piss out of New Zealand offering asylum. You know, kind of actually, they did it in a bad light, but actually got so much coverage. It was great. The petition was tabled to Parliament. We got it in the door. All we wanted them to say is basically all we wanted them to do is not sit on the fence and tell us, do they support the idea of discussing asylum for Assange or do they not? We only wanted them to talk about it, not to do it, because it was obviously a very difficult thing given he was in the embassy. Unfortunately, they said they had no jurisdiction, which is, I don't think, true. You can offer asylum to someone. You know, I know that he wasn't on New Zealand soil and that might have been an illegal issue, but hey, they wouldn't even talk about it. And they threw it out and said it's just not even in our jurisdiction, which was a disgrace. No Green MP, no National, no Labour. The guy that sponsored it to get it in, Greg, remind me.
It's Greg O'Connor.
Greg O'Connor, Labour MP. He was only doing it for free press. He didn't actually believe in our cause. He didn't turn up to pick it up. The only people that covered our event were bloody Chinese media. I mean, like, hello. Yeah. And as I was saying to the guards earlier, you might have heard me, we had one action here around the World Press Freedom Day where I'd done a rogue speech inside and a bit embarrassed them. And they weren't allowing Assange activists to even have addresses and phone numbers from other people, from people here. And we'd actually managed quite a nice turnout. So we were like, oh, please, you know, it was crazy. It was completely against the law, obviously. And we checked on it the next day, didn't we, Greg? And it was against the law, of course. It was just the speaker's stupid rules for the day. Yeah, so anyway, I'll get back to it. There are events in 22 cities, solidarity events, right? Some really small. My collective group, which is kind of the New Zealand branch of Assange, but also one of them, Candles for Assange, who list all the actions and we gather them together and we make people graphics and we try and get them into the idea of doing it all the same day. So that's kind of our sort of like a listing service. And so, yeah, the big one is DC, where they're going to surround the DOJ. And they've got a huge yellow ribbon like this. They're going to like wrap it up like a present. It's been really exciting. They've got amazing speakers. So yeah, the only MP that did eventually speak out, and I don't have any trust in him whatsoever, I will say, is Goldritz, who is an Iranian lawyer who was a refugee. So, but you know, for the longest time, she wouldn't say a thing to us. She wouldn't even acknowledge us. So yeah, a bit of a pity about the lack of integrity of our politicians, but we all knew that. Now, the last thing I'll say is, everyone thinks Julian was probably silenced in 2018 because of Catalonian statements about Spain. That is absolutely untrue. What he did was, in the last interview he ever gave for a Spanish conference, he brought up smart tech and nanotech. He sort of blew the whistle on something that he'd never talked about before. He was saying, how do we explain to the elites that they can't secure themselves against this risk? And it was only the very last 5 minutes of the video, but if you watch that, you're in no doubt that that seems the most plausible reason why he was silenced very shortly afterwards and kidnapped from the embassy months later. That's what I believe anyway. The story out in the ether is that it's Catalonia, and I believe that to be false. So just saying. I would like to end my speech, and I would like anyone else who wants to come up and talk. It's kind of like an open mic. Eventually, when we feel like we've got the most people and before anyone disappears off, we'll have to just get a photo here along the line, just, you know, holding hands with your ribbons on and stuff so that we can show our New Zealand effort with the beehive in the background. Anyone else who wants to talk now? I'm actually going live with Rogue News, so I might be busy. But right now I'm going to try. I don't know if the wind is going to get me, so I'll try.
I'd just like to point out one thing.
Oh yeah,
That today, of all days, the Nobel Peace Prize has been won by a Russian dissident who is very recently been arrested in Russia, probably for good reason. Meanwhile, it's really now the Ig Nobel Peace Prize, because the person who should have won the Peace Prize is Julian Assange.
Absolutely. Kay writes a lot of letters about.
So I sent a few little messages out to 1 or 2 media
Yeah, great.
about the Ig Nobel Peace Prize. You know, Obama also won the prize.
That'll make a great tweet for me.
He had bombed more countries and more illegal drone strikes on people, on human beings. And he also was an ignoble.
Yeah, of course.
The Swedish
And he's been
thing
nominated
is
7 times.
politicized
7 or 6
just-
times. Yeah. He's been nominated.
They have lost all credibility now.
Yeah.
A person who's just recently been arrested in Russia for probably good reason.
Yeah.
And Julian Assange
Yeah.
is in 10 years in prison,
Absolutely.
tortured and threatened with 175 years. How can America get away with this and our media is silent?
Thank you, Kay. Come up and talk later. I want to hear more from you. I'm going to just sing my silly national anthem, maybe a minor and a normal version. Come on, can anyone start me off with the bloody national anthem? Because I get them mixed up.
Which one?
Our one, New Zealand. I want an upside down New Zealand flag with it.
God of Nations.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, I just need to start. Would anyone else like to take the floor?
Just wanted to say,
Oh, someone come up here.
just wanted to say that we can probably watch the London proceedings tonight at Consortium News. They advertised that they will have a live transmission from London. So I wanted to say tonight.
Yes. It starts at 1 p.m. London time, so 1 a.m. 2 a.m.
1 a.m. Or you can see a recording.
Okay. Would anyone else like to talk? Yes, come on, Francis.
I make notes on my train here. And anyway, I think nowadays why we see not terribly many people here, we know, because a lot of young people, it has been going on for years. And a lot of people say, what's the relevance to New Zealand? He's so far away and that happened so long ago. But it is actually very relevant to us. Just look at what this government has been doing in the last 2-3 years. And imagine a country, a society without any whistleblowers. They can get away with whatever they do. The corruption, the war crimes, all other things they can do, just like they have been trying to do in the last few years. So the corruption happens in the government. And we have to be very, very worried about the trend, about what's already happened and what most likely will happen because it's going that way, in a very bad way. And I was like, hey, we have to be so worried when this happens, when so many of us, I'm sure quite a few of us here actually used to support Labour and Green, especially me as well. I campaigned for their elections, the last few elections, really hard. But just because we want to defend our basic human rights, our bodily autonomy. And look what, autonomy, that's the word. And look at what happened. We have been demonized. It's overnight. I haven't changed a bit, but overnight, we become the enemy of the state. And how could that be right? And we have to be so worried when our prime minister talking and believing she's like a god. She's only either government or the prime minister is dangerous. Sorry, I have to look at my note, even it's very messy. And all those things, so like we know a few months ago or a few weeks ago, my time frame messed up. The OIA, they blatantly run workshops trying to dodge the OIA, trying to dodge those inquiry. People ask questions about what the government is doing. The transparency is none. And the government operates like a black box. You only know what's really happened after the plane crash. And are we going to wait for that? So the whole government, the whole system, the whole country crashed. Then we know what the government was doing. So transparency is the key. We have to make sure it happened. And the business died. So many business, small business, medium-sized business died. And the government become the biggest, one of the biggest advertiser, or actually the biggest advertiser for all our mainstream media. How can you blame them? They are not here because they can't buy the hand who feeds them. All those huge hundreds or tens of millions at least spent on brainwashing and the propaganda. And how are we going to fight this? We have to do it individually, every one of us. We have to tell the truth to as many as possible. And sorry. Yeah, and that's another thing we have to, a lot of many things. We have to be really worried when this happens. When the party, which is the government right now, who committed all the crimes they accuse us of. Misinformation, they lie, and they accuse us of doing that. And a whole lot of things they accuse of us of, like we are the fascists. Yeah. And when they are doing they are the one we should be worried. When our prime minister speaking of kindness all the time, but she acts cruelty and inhumane. A lot of things she does is so bad when she encouraged the divide and the what's the word? Division. Yeah, division and all the other I forgot discrimination and when so many and even worse is more worrying when so many just comply and they just accept it and conform and they just trust whatever they hear from the TV, mainstream media. And when people with independent minds like us, we have a different opinion or we have opposite opinion, but based on a lot of the truth and the real science and the facts. But we got ignored. No, I'm not. And we got punished. So people like us got punished. And if you prepare, just lie down and take it. You are a good citizen. We are going to tell you what to do. And don't make sure you do not think for yourself. That's not right. That's very, very worrying. All this social media blocking and I think we all know that, a whole lot of them, the social media or and the freedom of speech. And sorry, I was and another thing we have to be very, very worried. And when the big pharma company, big pharmas and the big giant tech company, they are become the one make biggest profits to our country and in this world. And even more worrying when our government, our prime minister become their top salespeople. And how can we let that happen? If we let us, you see, they keep promoting, they spend millions promoting vaccination. And then on the other hand, they create such a country now so depressed and so mentally ill, a whole lot of people, mentally ill people, and they can still sell more drugs. Farmers still profits from that either way. You either get jabs or you get antidepressant. We make a huge money out of it. I think so many, we all know, so many have died before us in the last hundreds of years for our freedom and rights. But look how this government, without hesitation, thinks they could just take it all away from us, our freedom and rights. And we have been enjoying it in the last, I don't know, centuries, but they just took it away without hesitation. And a whole lot of people let them do that. And imagine, how do you get them back when you just let them have it? It took hundreds of years to get all those freedom and rights, get our democracy established and running well, and you let them just ruin it in a year or less. And it's going to be so difficult to get it back. Our children, some children are going to be born without knowing we ever have all these freedom and rights. Just like some Chinese people, they didn't know any better. They said that's how life is supposed to be. Right. With social pressure, with everything, government knows everything we are doing. But we are different. We have had a different life. We have had all those freedom and rights for so long. We can't let our country become like China. We don't want to be like China. Actually, if possible, we want them to become like us. Right? Hopefully. Okay, I'm trying to finish very soon. So what I say is that, yeah, I'm so worried all the time, but we really have to try to do whatever we can, any way, every way we can, to tell the truth in whatever way. If the social media doesn't work very well, we do that, of course, mouth. You have to let many people know, as many people know as possible, to know the truth and to know, and we have to defend, we have to protect, we have to encourage freedom of speech, free speech, and what's another thing? Of course, freedom of speech and the whistleblower. When all country, every one of us become whistleblower, can they stop us? No. So everybody has responsibility. We need to tell those people working in the government, working in the public sector, working in wherever they are, say, you have the duty for others and for the future generation. You can be the whistleblower. You can be the example. Let them not stop us. Thank you.
Thank you, Frances. Can you take this? Can you take it? Oh, take it. Are you gonna do it? Great. Okay, cool.
Oh, okay.
Thank you so much. Can you?
Anybody? I'm not very good with my with things. So
Oh gosh, hang on.
Just following on from what the last speaker said, and I understand we're here about Julian Assange and the deplorable state of mainstream media reporting in terms of what's told to us, what's not told to us, and what's only partially told to us, or what is told to us in a scramble that tries to make it like what it not, make it something other than what it is. And it's a real problem, and it's no wonder we do not have a well-informed democracy given the level of journalism in New Zealand. So Francie identified a number of things that have come to light in the last couple of years, and I've done two things about it, or I've done one thing and I'm on the case about another. And one is I moved a petition into the Parliament, which was sponsored by David Seymour of that party, and it's before the Petitions Committee, and there's been a whole lot of paperwork put into it, and it's coming to an end. And that petition is to create an amendment to Section 5 of the Bill of Rights of New Zealand. And the new amendment would say it'd be Section 5A. So under Section 5, justified limits, a new Section 5A, unjustified limits. So 11. And they're under a heading called the life and security of the person and the Bill of Rights. Section 8 is the right not to be deprived of life. Section 9 is the right not to be tortured. Section 10 is the right not to be involved in scientific or medical experiments without your consent. Section 11 is the right to undergo medical treatment. They're quite simple rights. They're in the Bill of Rights, but the government has used Section 5, right, to say that they can justifiably limit those rights in mandating their fucking toxic shit. Now, my petition is to say that never again can they do that, right? Because there would be nothing, right, that would provide any justified limit on those rights in Section 8, 9, 10, and 11, right? The right not to be deprived of life, the right not to be tortured, the right not to be experimented upon, and the right to refuse medical treatment. So they've sought advice for, in respect to the petition in my paper, and that they went to the Ministry of Justice, and the Ministry of Justice provided a 4-page response, piece of advice, and nothing in what they said, right, provides any impediment to Parliament adopting the petition or the amendment that I'm proposing. So at some point in the near future, there will be a report produced by the Petitions Committee, and it would be then for someone in the Parliament to move something or do something about it. So, I mean, wait and see. But that is a mechanism that we could use in the Bill of Rights. I'm sure they can hear me. Now they really hear me everywhere. I'm sure that mechanism, even if the Parliament doesn't pick it up at this point in time, does provide a means to put a line in the sand in the Bill of Rights where they cannot go any further in terms of a person's bodily integrity, right? And like, it's quite clear that they're intending to use this technology platform for all sorts of so-called vaccinations and medical therapies, because it's the new bonanza, right? So, I mean, aside from all the great reset agenda, there's this huge profit-making thing that's going on, and it's just a huge experiment being rolled out on the public. Well, you'd reckon that he would be able to bring all that out. And I wonder why there's not a big dump of material
People
there.
are starting to leave unless we do the photos.
Right. Yeah.
The other thing that I've done.
We've got to do the chain very soon. I'm going to be going to Canada.
Yeah, anyway, so the other thing I'm initiating is a petition for a parliamentary inquiry into the whole matter, the COVID matter. So that's
Thank
just
you.
by the way. But definitely, if we had a proper press, if they told us the facts, not layered in lies and bullshit, we would be in a totally different world to the one that we currently exist in, and Julian Assange would definitely be a free man able to conduct his family life,
Yeah.
if only.
Word. Thank you, Greg. Thank you, Greg. Yeah, can we've got to do the human chain in a bit, but you go on. If you want, you can speak after the human chain, because I think some people want to go.
No, we need to go through.
Yeah, so can,
Why don't we do the chain? Do the chain.
can you just film for a second?
Oh, yeah. Let's do the
Let's
chain.
go around the statue. Is everyone want to? We'll just go and sit so we can all hold hands at one point, and when we're ready, we'll all hold hands.
Okay, here I am.
Is that all going still?
Yep.
Cool.
Here
Okay.
you are.
I hope that's high resolution.
Hope so.
Okay. So,
You want it?
Shayna, maybe come around a little. If we come in a little bit on this side and join it all up.
Let me hold Francis's hand.
Just go around.
Hi,
Let's
darling.
just join it up.
can I just, yeah, sorry.
Just join it up. If
Okay, so I'm doing a selfie. All right. So here we are. We've got this queue. I'm just going to go walk around because that's what Stella's going to do. Okay, there's going to be one more in it. I'm coming. Oh, hang on. What's happening here? I think I'm back to front. Can someone take over from me and do it again?
Free Assange! Free Assange! Free Assange! Free Assange!
Can you take it? Can you film it or someone?
Free Assange!
Can you do one round?
There we go.
And I want to be in it.
Okay.
Free Assange! Free Assange!
Free Assange! Free Assange! Free Assange! Free Assange! Free Assange! Free Assange! Free Assange! Free Assange! Free Assange!
Free Assange! Okay, I'm going to go from the outside. And it looks amazing, guys. Thank you. Okay, it doesn't mean it's over. We can have more music, more speakers, more chalking. Anyone take a chalk? Anyone take flyers you want? There's a few hundred there. Anyone who wants to speak, please feel free to come up again because I didn't want to stop it forever. I do have to get off this live stream and go talk to Canada, which I missed, but anyway. Okay, I'm going to sign off now. How do I do that? Where do I go? Yeah, I'm just trying to, I don't know.
Finish off a huge submission to government.
Hang on. Yeah, good on you. Good on you. Do you know how to stop a live stream? Because I don't.
Absolutely no idea. Are you on YouTube or Facebook?
YouTube.
Oh, I wouldn't know.
Yeah.
Oh well, you're on forever, Alex.
Okay. Okay. Well,
Can you see the screen? I can't even see it.
Yeah, I can.
Welcome, everybody. It's great to see a big crowd here. This is we're excited today to welcome Jesse Ventura to Authors at Google in Santa Monica. Jesse is a former Navy SEAL and professional wrestler, and I have to say I was lucky enough to see him wrestle live back in the day a few times. And I loved it, and I especially used to love watching him as a commentator on television because he was always astute and funny. And he used to say he was the only commentator who told it like it is. And I have to say, he's still telling it like it is throughout his career. He has gone on to become a well-known actor and TV personality, governor of Minnesota, visiting fellow at Harvard's Kennedy School of Government, and a best-selling author. His best-selling books include Don't Start the Revolution Without Me and American Conspiracies. He's the host and executive producer of the TV series Conspiracy Theory with Jesse Ventura. And today he's going to be talking about his latest bestseller, 63 Documents the Government Doesn't Want You to Read. So please join me in welcoming Governor Jesse Ventura.
Thank you. Great to be here. First, I'd like to state, so you know a little about me, well, beyond what the nice introduction, I'm a throwback. I'm computer illiterate. Not a good thing for you. And I have never owned a cell phone in my life, nor will I ever now. I've made it a life's mission. I think that if I survive maybe another 20 years on this planet, I can put it on my gravestone and I'll be the only one who will be able to do that. I've already instructed my wife, if I go first, I want he never owned a cell phone put on it, because and so I'm kind of a dinosaur, I guess, but I enjoy it because I'll tell a funny story first. When I bought my dream car back in 2003, twin turbo X50 Porsche, 450 horsepower, 6-speed, that is so fast today I've never floored it. And that's how fast it is. When you order a car like that, you have to get a slot number because they're made by hand in Germany. And when you get your slot number, you have to order what you want. And my car salesman, who I previously probably bought a half a dozen cars from through the years because my wife and I enjoy Porsches and she likes Audis, and they're basically under the same roof. Probably fifth or sixth car, and my salesman Rob is going through the list, and he didn't even ask. He just looked at me and said, "And where would you like your cell phone?" And I looked at him and I said, "I don't want a cell phone." You would have thought I was ordering a car without tires. He gave me a look, unbelievable. But then I said, "But you see that 6 CD player, the thing you can stack 6 CDs in?" I said, "That I want." The reason I don't want a cell phone in my car, my Porsche, is because, first of all, it's a manual transmission 6-speed, which requires you to use both feet and both hands at the same time. So therefore, where's the cell phone going to fit in? And also because when I drive that car, it's the enjoyment of driving, not the enjoyment of talking on a phone. When I drive it, I want to drive it. And it's not California, it's not LA either. I can drive it and get it past 40. Which I always laugh when I come out here and see all the exotic cars. They go, where the hell do they drive them? And get past 40. You can't get past 40, but I got a Ferrari. Anyway, that aside. To the book. The last book I wrote was called American Conspiracies, where we went down basically from Abraham Lincoln and moved forward and took and talked about conspiracies and wrote about the conspiracies from the conspiracy side, basically. Naturally, I took a great deal of heat for it. It seems today that if you at all question your government story, you're a conspiracy theorist, which means you believe in anything, you're out in left field and all this stuff, and green men are coming from Mars and everything like that, which I think is highly unfair. So in light of that book, which was a bestseller, and by the way, I might add, Conspiracy Theory spent 7 weeks on the New York Times top 10 best-selling list, and yet was not reviewed by one mainstream media in the United States of America, including the Times itself, that it was on their list top 10 for 7 weeks. Why? Why, if not just to say the book's a piece of crap in the end? Why was it ignored? A book like that. So Dick Russell, my co-writer, and I, we decided, well, let's take a different approach with this next book. Let's do a book that they can't put any blame on us for theories or what I might think. And so we chose, and this was before WikiLeaks. We started this project 3 months before WikiLeaks even happened. And we said, let's do government documents. That way, the government documents speak for themselves and they're real. They exist. So this book has nothing to do with any type of theory, conspiracy theory. Every document is in this book is reproduced. We wanted to do that to where I just don't tell you about the documents and give you my opinion, which I do. But the documents are all reproduced in full, so you yourself can read them and judge for yourself what the document says. And we tried to go basically through my lifetime, and I will be 60 this summer, so we go back that far, and we progress forward to the modern time, and we hit documents all the way along the way. All the documents are legal. We didn't break any laws. They're out there. We didn't break anything top secret or that hadn't been unclassified. They're all in the public domain. And I will tell you this book to me is terrifying. This book was not easy to write. I'm a 6-year Navy veteran. I love my country. I have the rare privilege. My brother is a Vietnam veteran. I am a Vietnam veteran. And I have the rare privilege that not too many people can say, my father was a World War II veteran, and so was my mother. Not many people can say their mom was a World War II veteran. My father had, I think, 6 or 7 bronze battle stars in World War II over in Europe, and my mother was a nurse in North Africa during World War II. And not too many people can say your mom is buried in a national cemetery. So that's why the book was difficult, because this book tried my patriotism and it stretched it to thin, to a string. Because as I went through these documents and looked at the behavior of my country, it was appalling. It was shocking that we are involved in the things that we've been involved in over the last 50 years. In fact, I got chastised for bringing up a word that I find ironic. I guess you're not supposed to use. When you read this, what bothered me, but I'll use it. I tell it like it is, where we at. I believe in many instances in this book, you can substitute the word Nazi and it works. There's behavior in this book that is as you'd expect it from the Nazis, but it isn't the Nazis, it's us. It's our country. Now, people say, what, documents are secret. What right do you, who's got the damn cell phone? Shut that off. This is, consider this a green and a golf course. Oh, that's a hard line. Okay, I stand corrected. Anyway, these documents are appalling, and our behavior has been appalling in reading these documents of the things that my country has done. And yet, in most cases, no one has ever been prosecuted. No one has ever been tried for any of the stuff in the book. And that troubles me. Now, let me move forward quickly to WikiLeaks for a moment, if I can. I think WikiLeaks is a hero because of the fact that last year, in 1 year, our country declared top secret 16 million documents. 16 million documents that you and I are not allowed to see in 1 year. I had to figure that must be just about everything they do. Just about. Maybe, I don't know how many documents they would have. But I find it interesting that when I was in the military as a Navy SEAL, I had a top secret security clearance. It was required. And I've been a mayor and I've been a governor. Now I'm neither. I'm a citizen. At what point do I lose my top secret security clearance? How am I any different today than I was before when it comes to security? And yet, because I become a civilian or a citizen, now I'm not allowed to know things that I could know as a governor, that I could know as a SEAL. Yet I'm the same person. But I guess being a civilian puts you at the bottom of the food chain, or a citizen of knowledge. And I think it's wrong. Now, the thing that you'll see in the book, that I dedicated the book to Congressman Ron Paul. And I did that because he was the only person in our Congress when WikiLeaks happened that stepped out on the floor of Congress and gave what I thought one of the greatest speeches I had heard, when he stated unequivocally that WikiLeaks has killed no one. How many people have been killed from the lies, the false intelligence, and the deception we got to put us into the Iraq War? Also, the fact that I think what he said that was extremely important was that in a free country like ours, when telling the truth, people accuse you of being a traitor or treason. When the truth equals treason in a free society, then we're hurting. When telling the truth means people accuse you of being a traitor, the truth is what it is. The truth is the truth. When I ran for governor, I never used a prepared speech for anything to win, because I ran under the premise of, if you tell the truth, you don't have to have a good memory. And that's true. I always remember I was in my first debate and I sat down and there were like 7 candidates then, and a black woman civilian was sitting to my left, and they all walked in, they're carrying books, spin papers, all this stuff. They're all loaded down, and I come in with nothing, sat down at the table, and this woman had one of those legal pads, with the yellow paper and a pen, and she set it on the table and she slid it over to me. And I looked at her and I slid it back, and she said, "Well, don't you think you'll need that?" And that's when I told her, I said, "Ma'am, when you tell the truth, you don't have to have a good memory." And I'll never forget the smile she gave me and nodded. she got it then, that I'll tell the truth. And I made the biggest mistake in the debates you could possibly make in a political debate. I was asked a question on TV in a debate, and I simply said, I don't know. There was like this deadened pause of 2 seconds, and the crowd erupted into cheering and applause. And then when it was subsided, I said, but if it's important, I'll learn. Well, I think the people appreciated honesty, and I think the people appreciated hearing someone running for office that didn't claim to know everything. And I think that they realized at that point that truly honesty was more important to elect somebody. Now, the state of our country today, we're in a mess. And who is to blame? The Democrats and the Republicans. They have been in charge for my entire life. I am an independent, dyed in the wool, true and true. I despise them both equally, not one over the other. I dislike both. I'm an equal opportunity despiser of both our political parties. I agree with what Ralph Nader said. We are a two-party dictatorship in this country. Now, how can we break it? How can we take our country back? See, I not only talk about things, sometimes I give solutions. How can we take our country back today? I believe it's as simple as the nose on your face, if I can use that cliche or another one, but unfortunately we can't see the forest for the trees. How can we do it? Simple. Stop voting for Democrats and Republicans. Remember, voting's not a horse race. You're not there to pick a winner. You're there to vote your heart and conscience for the candidate you believe fits your values the most and who you believe in. And if you do that, you have voted correctly. You have not wasted your vote. Wasting your vote is trying to pick a winner. We all like to be with winners, so we can all brag and say, yeah, I voted for this candidate and he won or she won. But to me, that's not doing your civil duty, your civic duty. It's voting your heart and conscience. And a way we can start, a way we can immediately start to take our country back. How about this? I'll back up a second. I no longer believe in the third party movement. And I'll tell you why. The Democrats and Republicans have corrupted the system so badly that any third party in which to survive will have to corrupt itself. Well, you've already got a two-headed monster. Why would you want a three-headed one? I now advocate the abolishment of all political parties in the United States of America, turn them into political action committees, which is what they are anyway. Certainly they can endorse, but end it there. And on every ballot in the United States of America, here's a simple thing we can do. Remove the party designation and put down only the name. It's too simple. The system's set up for it. If you're conservative, you don't need to know anybody's name. You look for the party. Republican, Republican, Republican. If you're liberal, you don't need to know a name. Democrat, Democrat, Democrat. By only putting down the name would then require you as a voter to educate yourself. What does John Smith stand for? Because you wouldn't have that crutch in there that would tell you conservative or Democrat. And then there's one, and you in California can get away with this stuff because you got that nonsense where you can put everything on the ballot. The next thing would be simply this. How about on every state, local, and national ballot, we offer the final choice at the bottom that you can vote for none of the above. Now, people laugh at that, but what that truly is a vote of no confidence in government. That could do volumes, huge. Because imagine for a moment, let's say I'm a Democrat, and I defeated my Republican opponent for Congress, but I lost to none of the above. More people cast their vote for none of the above than what I got. Wouldn't that make them go out there with a change of attitude? You lost to nobody. Yes, you're the congressman or the congresswoman, but you lost to none of the above. And I'm willing to bet right now there are elections in this country where none of the above would prevail. And what's wrong with that? a vote of no confidence. That would send a huge message, huge, to every elected official. Imagine these ideas coming from a pro wrestler. I didn't go to college. I'm not a political science major, and I'm certainly not a lawyer. Imagine that, all these ideas that this pro wrestler comes up with, you know. But anyway, those are a few of the things. And as you look into this book, and I will open up here for questions in a minute, because that's usually the best way. I don't want to just lecture. I'd like to answer questions and what's on your mind. And but as you look through this book, I hope it does frighten you. I hope that it's a wake-up call. I hope that you will be engaged citizens. Stop being lemmings, because right now we're a country full of lemmings. We get marched right off the cliff and we don't even look left or right. And why? It's the dumbing down of America because of our media. Our media was supposed to be the fourth branch of government. They were supposed to be the watchdog of the other three to report back to us. Well, they're not anymore. They're in bed with the government. They're the government's mouthpiece now. They're no longer a watchdog. Cases in point. What's the top story this last 3-4 weeks? Charlie Sheen. You can't turn the news on now without hearing a report on Charlie Sheen. Now, Charlie, he's got some problems. I feel bad for him, but he's hardly deserves but maybe a mention at the end of the news, not a lead story. And what was it a year and a half ago? The main story, the death of Anna Nicole Smith. I almost threw up. Every day they're doing mobile, sending down mobile reporters outside the hotel. Well, we're down here in wherever she was, the Bahamas or whatever the hell had happened. And we're in front of the hotel where Anna Nicole Smith died. Hey, I was alive in '63 when John Kennedy was assassinated. Anna Nicole Smith got way more press in the end than the assassination of our president, because hers went on. It's still got legs. I just saw it the other day. Some judge made a ruling to give her house to her boyfriend or something. That's newsworthy. It's like when I was supposed to have a television show on MSNBC, but that's a whole nother matter. They tried to tell me what I was supposed to cover every day. And at the time, you'll recall, remember the murder you had here where the guy killed his wife out in the boat or whatever it was a couple years ago? Oh, pardon me? Peters, yeah, that murder. Well, they were shoving that down my throat every day to cover that. And I go, wait a minute. There's 10,000 murders a year. Now, that was a tragic murder, but there are 10,000 murders a year, every year. How is this one so important? Now, it might be important to all you Californians because you live here. It's close to you. But go back to Minnesota with me. We have our own murders. Why do we need to know about yours? And yet, every night, day in and day out, that is the dumbing down of America by our news media. And we're at fault because we accept it, because we like this titillating journalism. And you know what the downfall was to our news? The show 60 Minutes. Now, let's hear me out. 60 Minutes, a marvelous show. But here's where it was the downfall. Up until that point in time, pre-60 Minutes, the news departments lost money. So they would make it up in the entertainment division because they felt, well, we'll lose money, but it's our job to inform, right? Along comes 60 Minutes. Lo and behold, it goes to number one in the ratings. The bean counter's upstairs, the light goes off. You mean we can make money with the news? There was your downfall, because from that point on, the news became about making money, not informing you. It became the ratings rather than information to smarten you up. Now you have, and here's the dangerous part, because of that, you now have the news. They're into creating the news, not into reporting it. And that's very, very dangerous in my opinion. Very dangerous. So it's up to us to be vigilant citizens. Tom Jefferson said dissension is the greatest form of patriotism, and I believe that. I endorse that completely. There's nothing wrong with dissenting. There's nothing wrong with holding elected officials' feet to the fire. If you don't, you will get bad government. So I hope you'll read this book. I hope that you'll digest the documents that are in it. I hope you're as shocked as I am about what some of the documents are. And if there's any in particular that you see and would like to ask me about as you look into the book, feel free to do so. I won't go into them now because, you know, reading is supposed to be pleasure and it's supposed to be you doing it. So I'm not going to, unless you ask me specifically, I'm not going to go into the things that are in the book, but I will do this. I opened and closed the book more or less with two quotations. The first quotation comes from my particular favorite president in my whole life, President John Fitzgerald Kennedy. And here's what President Kennedy said to us. There is little value in ensuring the survival of our nation if our traditions do not survive with it. And there is a very grave danger that an announced need for increased security will be seized upon by those anxious to expand its meaning to the very limits of official censorship and concealment. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? We're going to keep you safe, right? Then I like to finish off also just to show it runs through our entire country's history. I'll quote Patrick Henry. Most of us remember Patrick Henry as saying, "Give me liberty or give me death." That was a great quote, you know, brave quote. But he also said this, Patrick Henry, quote, "The liberties of a people never were, nor ever will be, secure when the transactions of their rulers may be concealed from them." And I think that, you know, those are two real great Americans. And the words they speak are, in my opinion, very true. So on that note, I'd like to say thank you, Google, for having me here. Lunch was terrific. It's kind of a remarkable company, I heard, that feeds you. Geez, you're like the Navy. You know, they used to feed me, you know, 3 hots and a cot every, you know, all the time. And no, actually, I will tell you this. I was at the Naval Amphib Base, Coronado, California, and we won Best Chow Hall for like 11 years in a row in the 11th Naval District. Every Thursday, we would have steak and lobster in the Navy. And I was on what they call comrades, because commuted ration type thing, because our jobs take us away from the base so often as a SEAL that they pay you money. So you have to eat at the chow hall when you're there. And but it was, I think lunch was 65 cents and you'd get steak and lobster. So that's not a bad price. You know, of course, then again, let's remember this was way back in the early 70s when the economy was much different, but so was my salary. Because when I joined the Navy initially, I made $122 a month, $61 a paycheck. And I'd blow it that first weekend and then be stuck on the base the rest of the time because, you know, I wasn't very economically sound back then, I guess. So thank you very much. It was a pleasure for me to be here. And now I'll open up for questions. You know, I'll tell you, excuse me, that's a first. No, other than the hand finally, I've never done a speech where everybody froze and didn't ask a question. Go ahead, sir.
This is kind of a two-part question. The first is...
Okay, but give it to me one part at a time. I've been on the road for 2 weeks. I'm going on about 4 hours a night every night. I'm dog tired, so slow and easy.
Sure. What was your motivation to run for governor back when you did? And then the second part is simply, in being a governor of the state, what was the one thing you walked away with that you learned the most about how our government works?
Okay, my motivation, I'll give you my fun motivation. This is the joke. There's a gentleman in Minnesota by the name, a great businessman by the name of Wheelock Whitney. And when I first won governor, I was speaking to a group of businessmen and Wheelock was there. And they asked me the same question: what motivated you to become governor? And I looked right at Wheelock Whitney and I said, well, I was a mayor and it didn't work. So I figure if I get to be governor, it will work. Well, Wheelock Whitney happens to be a member of Augusta National, where they play the Masters. And I said, I figured if I won governor, Wheelock Whitney would then take me to Augusta and let me play Augusta, Georgia, which is the heaven of professional golf. And I looked at Wheelock and said, Wheelock, don't force me to have to become president. And he was a man. He burst out laughing and he said, you're going to Augusta. And sure enough, he was good enough to take me there. And I got to play Augusta National. And if you're a golfer, that's the same, I think, as going to heaven. You know, now on a serious note, what inspired me to become governor was something really interesting. Let's move back, if we may, to 1998, when our economies were robust. Remember that? Interest was nothing. Everybody was making huge money. Well, the state of Minnesota was in such fiscal shape then, they were getting budget surpluses. In other words, they did their budget, but because the economy was so robust, they were bringing in more than what they budgeted for. Well, the 1 year, guess what they did? They spent it. They thought they were kids in a candy store. They thought, whoa, we brought in more money than what we budgeted for. That means we can go buy extra stuff. Well, I was outraged. I was doing talk radio, and I said, wait a minute. If they brought in more than what their budget needed, then that money should be returned to the taxpayers. So I basically ran on that. I said, you know, I was doing talk radio, and I was so angry. I said, maybe I should run for governor. Woo, then you box yourself in a corner. And of course, on talk radio, if you lose your credibility, you're nothing. And so I kind of forced myself. I had to run. And I can honestly say pre 9/11, we had 3 more robust economy years. And I gave back tax rebates to every citizen of Minnesota. They named them Jesse checks. And I did it even over the, you'd think the Republicans would have gone with me all the way, but they wanted it to be an income tax rebate. Well, an income tax rebate means you got to declare it, which means then it's part of your income, which means the federal government's going to take 1/3 of it. And I thought, this isn't the Fed's money, it's ours. So I did it and was successful in a sales tax rebate, because you can't deduct a sales tax, so therefore they can't take the money. So when you got your check, you could spend it. Now there is a true stimulus package, not the bullshit you're getting today. The stimulus package, if you want to send the money to the people will spend it. That will spur the economy. Like I met an old woman, elderly woman, and she came up to me and she told me, Governor, she said, thank you for that Jesse check. I said, you're welcome, ma'am. She said, do you know what I did with it? I said, what? She said, I needed a new lawnmower. And I went down and bought it, and I named my lawnmower Jesse. And I was very flattered over that, you know, this elderly woman who wanted a new, powered lawnmower for her backyard. Because, you know, contrary to LA, we in Minnesota do have backyards. They have grass and trees too. I got a gig in California occasionally, you know. So that was what really inspired me to run, was that budget, to where they didn't give back the surplus of money to the people. It was our money, and they were spending it like kids in a candy store. So next question. Right here. Well, actually, we'll go closer to the mic. I'll get to everyone, but we'll try to keep it close to the mic. Yes, ma'am.
Have you ever considered running for a presidential election in 2020?
President?
Yes.
I've considered it. I've thought about it. And I'll be very honest, as an independent, the cards are against you, because you'd think it was a universal thing. If you're running for president, every state to qualify should be the same, correct? But it's not. They do that on purpose. Every state, you have to jump through different hoops to get ballot access. And when you try to get it, the Democrats and Republicans will bring lawsuits then to tie you up in court, so that by the time you get through with court, the election has already passed you by. That's the system they've created to keep anyone else out of the game. It's like playing a football game, and they get to be the referees, and they can also change the rules at halftime. You know, that's what you're up against. Right in Well, other than that fiasco, unbelievable in Alaska where it worked, I have never ever seen a write-in candidate ever win. But Alaska did give me a slight ray of hope because it happened up there. But let's remember, those are Alaskans, and there's not exactly as many of them as there are Californians or the rest of the country. Smaller numbers, you'd have a better chance. The bigger numbers you're dealing with, the more difficult it would be. Now, saying that, though, the libertarians, which I am kind of I like to refer to myself as libertarian small l, not capital, because the true libertarian believes there should be no government. That's an anarchist. I understand that there should be at least some government, that government does have a role. The other part of that question of will I run is this: being president's an oxymoron. What I mean by that is that you stand for freedom, but you yourself have none. When you hold those jobs, you give up your freedom. It's gone. And I like my freedom. I like living in Mexico now because down there I'm just a big gringo. Nobody other than being a big guy, they'll look at me, but they don't know who I am, and I enjoy that right now after the career I've had. So it would require me to have to want to, as I like to refer to it, it would require me to want to go back to jail. Now, not saying I won't do it, and I'll tell you something else honestly. Before I put my butt on the line, this country better show me it's worth it. You better show me it's worth it this time. I've already done 4 years as a mayor, 4 years as a governor, and 6 years in the Navy. That's 14 years of my life I've given to the public. And to do that job, I need to know it's worth it. And right now, the people of this country are not showing me that. They're starting to. I like the protests in Wisconsin, and I like how things are stirring up. But in order for me to win, we got to think revolutionary. In order for me to win, you got to be ready to elect Che Guevara. Because I will change things if I won. What would I do? I'll tell you what I would do. First thing I would do, I would cut defense spending, which is something I don't know if you can win off that because they use fear on you. That, if you cut defense spending, we're all going to get killed. We're all going to be. Well, I would close every base we have throughout the world, and I would bring our young men and women home and back to our own country, and we would defend our country from here. We wouldn't be colonizing anymore or creating this empire. We're following the Roman Empire right now. So and that would cut spending. If you're truly going to balance the budget, you can't do it without cutting defense spending because that's the biggest thing out there. And how many times can we blow up the world? We've got technology. You're at Google here. We got technology now and the weapons we don't need. Why do we have 50,000 troops in Germany, 50,000 troops in Korea, 50,000 troops in Japan? Seems to me those wars were over 50 years ago. Why do we still have troops there? So, those are a few of the things I would do. You'd call me radical, I guess, because I would not be doing what mainstream does. I'm so disappointed in Barack Obama. I really thought he's a dynamic speaker, but I really thought there's no change. I can't tell the difference between him and Bush, just that he can read a teleprompter. But other than that, I don't see any change. And so also it's difficult. He's an incumbent, and as an independent, that's tough. You're better off when the incumbent leaves and when the election's open, which would be 2016. And by then, I'll be that much older, and I don't know if I would have the energy at that point to want to do the job. But it's hard to beat an incumbent, people. Very hard. When I ran for governor, it was because there was no incumbent governor, which opened it up for me to do that. So next question. And you can go on any topic. I'm not,
I've also got two questions, and I'll just give them both to you at once because I'm pretty sure you can remember the first one.
All right.
First one is, what color is your Porsche? And the second one is, so you've got 63 documents in here.
Yep.
I'm sure there were many more. Do you have any examples of what other documents you would have liked to have included?
Not really. It was tough enough doing the 63. We chose 63 because that was the year John Kennedy was assassinated and murdered. So we thought that was a good number. I don't want to go into any. These are enough. Digest these. And what color is my Porsche? It's like a lapis blue metallic, which is that. I had to think a minute because they got those names for every color, which is a very deep dark blue. And then I got the beige interior with it, and I got the most wood you could get. On the interior, and that was sick, really. I wasn't going to get it at first till I came home and I told my wife, and she looked at me and said, "This is your dream car." She goes, "Don't hold back. Get everything on it you want." Well, the wood alone, because it's all hand carved, it runs across the top, around all the speakers. The wood alone was 10 grand. And I thought, that's obscene. In reality of the world, that's pretty bizarre, but what the hell, money's made to spend. And also remember this on that note, the economy, when all you hear about is cut spending, I got news for you people. If we don't spend, there is no economy. The economy is based upon spending. Spending creates jobs. You have to buy things. You have to have money moving. If we all cut everything, now don't get me wrong, government does and is in places it shouldn't be. But think of that when you get brainwashed on, cut spending. The economy is based upon spending. That's what makes it work. You buy things, the money, that's what creates jobs. Spending creates jobs. Why do you think they always renew unemployment? That's because if you're on unemployment, you spend every cent of it. That spurs the economy and starts to create jobs, so then you're not on unemployment anymore. Think of it. How other way can there be jobs if there's not money being spent? And besides, you can't take it with you, people. That's what I always say. You come into the world naked, you leave with it naked. You can't take $1 with you. Spend the damn stuff. Enjoy it. You work hard for it. That's the fruits of your labor. But then, make sure that your kids and things like that are taken care of. But buy stuff. What the hell? You can't do nothing with that paper. Substitute it in the bathroom, maybe. But other than that, you spend it. That's what spurs the economy. Next question.
So what do you think that the government should do? What are the important things that the government does in our lives? What should
should they do? Well, I'll put it to you this way. Well, let's go to healthcare for a minute. That's always a cantankerous. Now they've labeled it Obamacare. To me, it's a human right. If you're sick, you should be able to go to the doctor. If we weren't spending all our money on these wars, we'd have more money. We could have healthcare 3 times over. You don't hear a word about that. It's fine to spend money to kill people. But healthcare, oh my goodness. And for these hypocrites in Washington, now I'm talking to Republicans who are blaming Obamacare. Oh, we're going to repeal it. Well, why don't they start repealing it by giving up their government-run health care? The Senate and the Congress has government-run health care. It's provided by the government for them. They want you not to have it while they go to the bank with it. You don't see any of them saying, I'm a stand-up type person. I'm going to give up my health care being a congressman and senator for me and my family to set an example. Do you hear that? Anybody know of one of them doing that? Then what are they? They're hypocrites because they're telling you, and then I'll flip it a little farther. If government-run health care is so terrible, then are we screwing over the military again? Because the military's had government-run health care since World War I. So I guess we're sticking it to the military again, giving them a substandard thing. But all I know